Hey guys, how's it going today? I'll start doing a little intro stuff here in a minute, checking audio, things like that. So if you guys want to let me know if you can hear me fine, if you can see everything, all that kind of good jazz. Hey, how's it going tonight? This is going to be the semifinals match, the second one of the Rogue tournament. Started for all the people who came in from the Modern Rogues video on TAC. So here I've got the standings and the finals bracket. We're starting at the Sweet 16 and then going all the way up till the finals. I covered the My Lemon Lime and Ornable yesterday, and today it's going to be the It's Just Boris and Scalpel. So we'll see who faces off in the finals against Ornable, who took the games yesterday. And we'll see. I've got my money on a certain player, but I won't tell you guys who. And hopefully you have someone you're rooting for as well. And let's see what they're playing for here. Okay, so first place gets the first pick between these metal capstones from World Builders. This is the Wolf and Hawk. Or a travel tack set, laser cut MDF, and then tavern pieces to go with it in a little cotton bag. And then after that, we have participation prizes. So anyone who did their best to complete all their games gets entered into a lottery where they can win copies of my book or high-level game reviews. So either myself or someone else from the community will review a game of yours and kind of give feedback and help you improve at this deceptively hard game of tech. So again, today this is going to be It's Just Boris versus Scalpel. And let me get over to the site today. We had a board skin contest recently, and this is the third place. I featured the first place and second place on other videos of mine. This is a recreation by Gruppler of the Devi's board, which was a Wormwood Gaming board that they offered, I think, during the Kickstarter, and then a little after that as well. So this is the kind of digital representation of that. So we'll be playing on the diamonds, as you can see on this one. And I've tried to kind of pick a border and a background, pieces that hopefully stand out enough that you guys can tell what's going on. We'll be playing with that today. This is going to be, right now we're on a 5x5, but the game is going to be on a 6x6 board. 0 Comey, so 0 is going to be added to Black's flat count in the event that either player runs out of pieces or the board fills. So those are the alternate kind of game end conditions there if no one makes a road. In future beginner tournaments, we're going to try out 2 Comey, which is what the standard is for all of our other tournaments. So this may be the last tournament of any tournament that we have that has 0 Comey. And Comey is used to kind of offset the first player advantage in TAC. So because white gets to go first, they tend to always have an extra piece on the board, which means they're closer to making a road. They have kind of more initiative. So the Comey kind of offsets that, allows black to be a little bit more defensive in 1 or 2 instances and kind of tip that back towards the 50%, which is what everyone wants their abstract board games to be, is about 50% win rate, win chance for either side. Just a couple minutes left and I'll give the players the go ahead. But once again, this is going to be It's Just Boris versus Scalpel. They will each play a game where they have the white pieces, and then they'll play a game with white, swap colors, play another game. And this is brought to you by the U.S. Tax Association. So that's who pays the rent for playtac.com and keeps it free for everyone to play online. If you want to support them, become a member, and your membership dues go to keeping that site running, updated, all that kind of good stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Also pays for all the prizes and things that we give out, and for us to go to Gen Con and PAX Unplugged every year so that we can promote TAC and keep it growing. And one more look through the prizes here. First place gets first pick between this prize, which is the Wolf and Hawk capstone set from World Builders, and the laser cut MDF tack set with tavern pieces from me. And then if you do your best to complete all your games, you're entered into a lottery for Mastering TAC Level 1 or High Level Game Review. Let me go ahead and give the players the all clear. Chat, you guys are going to be on about a 20-second delay. That's to keep things fair, just in case someone is watching that shouldn't be watching. We have a little bit of a time delay there, and it's also just something that YouTube streaming does. And let me know if my audio is good and visuals are all right, and I will adjust those on the fly, assuming that I remember how. All right, I've given them the go ahead, so we should see game pop up here in a minute, and then we'll get to spectating, get to sit in the easy chair here instead of being at the board. Still stressful, but much less stressful than playing a game. That's for sure. Pictures in mind. Do you mean the logos that I've been doing? Yeah, if you look at this right here, I just put text in there. I've been out in the garage trying to get stuff done for Gen Con and a couple commissions, and didn't have time to do any logos for the players. But if I'm able to cover the finals, I definitely would like to get some logos done for these guys. All right, good old waiting game here. Hopefully everybody's having a good weekend. It unfortunately rained today, so I didn't have to do yard work. So that's a big bummer, as you can tell. Had to spend it in the garage doing tax stuff. Let me pop over and check them. Check on them. And as soon as I do that, of course, they pop up. All right, let's pull a game in here, guys. Let's see what's going on. Have to remember to keep the mic close to me. All right, looks like Scalpel is going to have the white pieces for the first game. So that means they will swap, and it's just Boris will have them for the second one. Okay, and they're off. We have opposite corners and a center squabble, or at least the beginnings of one. So white immediately going for the center here, one of these 4 squares usually. Black matches, and then white picks a direction. And usually what will happen, black will mirror here for a few turns and then drop a capstone somewhere up in white's territory here, um, with the goal of cutting over or cutting into this formation and then building their own from there. So I'd expect a capstone at maybe d5. C5 is fine as well. When you pick c5, kind of are committing a little bit more to the western half of the board and giving white a little bit more on the eastern. Okay, first attack third of the game. Just blazing out of the gate here. So now black has stolen tempo from white here. White needs to decide how they're going to stop this incoming attack threat. They can temporarily stop it with f3, something like that. Then black would place f4 most likely and work towards a sneaky double threat of once they get a3, they can throw over that way. If they don't want to intermingle here, then they can just take a3, which builds vertically as well as that horizontal. Both players not using much time at all during the opening here. I'm going to say that it's because they've studied the opening a little bit, because everything so far has been pretty textbook, even though that book is yet to be written. I'm working on it. But that one's 2 books away. I did the hug first, and then I'm working on the night now, and then the center squabble will be the 3rd book in that series, and then probably finish it up with the edge crawl. Okay, what do we have here? So instead of f4, black did f2, which is fine. It keeps this southern half of the board and theirs. Something that I kind of neglect a lot of times is we do have a Playtech spectator chat. So you can hop on this channel, type in here, and it will not show up for the players playing the game, but it'll show up for anyone who wants to kind of spectate and do text commentary on there instead of the YouTube. So Alion's in that spectator chat. If you don't know Alion, he's a mediocre player, world champion, I think they're calling him these days. No, he's an excellent player and has a good grasp on the game and its varied mechanics. Black makes a threat here. Alion was saying that black looks pretty good, which I agree. They were able to cut white's initial threat and begin to build their own. And now, then he said you can't drop a cap on e2, which, I mean, you can because it was played, but saying it wasn't a good idea to drop a cap on e2. White 1 turn away from making a threat here. Flat on flat captures are normally discouraged at the beginning stage, just because they cause a lot of liabilities later on in the game. However, if you are going to capture with a flat, this is what I call a mother hen situation. So you are getting your little chick right next to the mother hen. So you're kind of putting that liability right next to your capstone where it can be somewhat protected. And if you guys have questions, like I said, there's a little delay there, but pop them in the chat and I'll try and remember to look over. Okay, black taking a little bit of time to think about options here. Um, they can make a slow play and move their capstone over to d4. I say slow play because it doesn't add anything to the board, and so you're not using a reserve. It's a slower play than adding something to the board. They go with just an f4, and yeah, e1 is the play here for white. It's going to force a capture because we have what would otherwise be a continue situation here. So I'm not sure what else white would be considering here. It's not always the right play to make a threat, but making a threat a lot of times is the stronger play. This is not a Comey game, so there's 0 Comey, so that is not as bad as it otherwise could have been if this were a game with 2 Comey and these were higher level players. Making white put a wall down on turn 11 is not necessarily a nail in a coffin, but it's getting the nail and the hammer out for the coffin. So with that, black basically has a free turn here. They can pin the cap with d2. They can go a2 and work on that. They can build up here on the C file. They choose C. It's a decently strong idea, I feel. Okay, now white makes that threat. And we expect to see black throw that cap over, and they do. Not an attack threat. And again, black has kind of put their capstone right in the middle of white's road formation here, slowing them down quite a bit. So black has the momentum in this situation. A couple nice things about having this capstone here. It targets this e3 square. White can move up onto it, create a hard cap. However, that loses them 1 flat. So white's vertical here, pretty much shot. White's horizontal would have the best chance up top here. However, black's cap is well placed to defend against that. And if white does nothing on this turn, then black will most likely place f4 next turn. That is right in line with this capstone throw, so it could cover that. F4 would be what I expect here. Allion saying A2, and I think A2 is a good play, but take the easy threat when you can. This is going to force a capture from white, and then you can always build that vertical up more later. And then in situations like these, you kind of want to look a turn or so ahead if you can and see what of these stones, because you know you're going to have to capture to stop this threat. You need to see what of these stones you're not using or aren't doing much good where they are, and it wouldn't hurt you that badly to move them. For instance, if you were to capture just d4 minus here, that doesn't really do much for you because then black can just replace that and make attack threat by threatening c5 minus. All right, white uses the wall. I mean, one thing black could do is just come down and capture that. They can also just place it f3. So they have a few options. They can ignore this and then start building a2, c6, any of those over there. So you can take this whole stack down. That blocks the cap, the white cap out. And then white is intact, so they wouldn't have time to develop that. They'd have to use one of these stones over here to stop your threat. Black goes with f3, threatening to bring this capstone down here for the road. White can make a hard cap here, which allows their capstone back in the game. However, I don't know if it's enough to break through what black is beginning to build here. One advantage of hard caps is they are quite annoying. they make your opponent calculate a lot. Okay, we got a bit of thrashing here. So thrashing is just kind of moving usually a wall back and forth. It does change the board state because you are adding stones and you are adding liabilities, but it doesn't help the board state, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure what the idea is here. I mean, black cannot crush that wall, but they've used, how many stones we have under there? 5 stones now. So if we look at the reserves here, black is quite a bit under white. They're getting closer to ending the game on their terms. Let's see. Chat asks, are there positives to being a thrashing player? Yes. If you can thrash in a way that allows your wall more reach to get further up here to stop something, the missed road, then that can be very helpful. Or if you can thrash in a way that looks like you're thrashing, but then you're able to throw a stone or a stack up to complete your own road, then those are the only 2 advantages. Other than just if you're way ahead on flats and you can run your opponent's reserves down, then you can get to some tricky things there. Okay, so it's just Boris took that one. Looks like so this was just they had to use one of these other stones as part of the road to interrupt black's threat there. Let me check in with them and see if they're going to take a little break or if they're jumping into it. Okay, they didn't answer, but I see that a game popped up, so maybe they're just rolling right into the next one here. And looks like they are. They're off. All right, so same players. It's just Boris and Scalpel, but they have switched colors. So now it's just Boris is in the white, starting with kind of a long night here. So this is another center squabble. This just kind of can transpose into an opposite color mattress of what we saw last time, I guess. So it looks like they are going for that same kind of mirrored approach here. We'll see if white continues that. Sometimes white will break off early and make a turn here. So like if black did c5 here, white might do c2. If black does c2, then white definitely wants to take c5. Okay, so a little deviation here. We got black capstone down already. White is still going to reach a road threat first, but that's expected. And black just already cuts it off. So now, if I were white, I would start cutting over on this horizontal here. C2. They can do something like capstone C5, CC5. That just kind of locks black out a little bit, but leads to a less active capstone there. If we count tempo or momentum here, white needs 1, 2, 3 to make a road threat, and black needs 1, 2, 3. But since it's white's turn, white will get there first. And especially in the opening, and indeed throughout the game, momentum and tempo are king. White does need to watch that they don't get overconfident here, and this is actually a fairly strong pattern or pattern of empty space over here. Well, I don't think black needed to fill that in yet, but if black had gone this way or even this way, then having the option to make a threat here, here, or here, or even here, can be a very powerful thing to have in your back pocket. I don't know that I would have played e3 just because if you can stay out of reach of that capstone, then you may as well and get to the same result. It does maybe help you with c3 minus later on. All right, black taking a2, so just taking that square away from white, just kind of stealing it. However, that is at this point of the game purely defensive. It's not really adding to what black has in store in the future, so white can just build around b3, and then if white does a3, then a1. Okay, they put the capstone down. Looks like Alion's agreeing with that. Says a2 is slow and ineffective. Yeah, Alion's not known for pulling his punches in games or in commentary. It's a little bit early in the game to count flats, but anytime the players kind of take a minute to think on stuff, it's a good idea too. So 2, 4, 6, 7 for white, 2, 4, 6, 7 for black. Pretty even as white's turn, so they'll be ahead. There's attack threat. E2 for Citadel. If black continues to give white chances, there's probably not a harm in E2. It kind of telegraphs that you're setting up for a 10U threat, but it's at this point I would just keep pushing. So instead of kind of building blockier shapes, just continue to build in this area over here, depending on black's response. C1 plus, I guess. You can throw that cap down, but then you're giving white just more free turns. A2 over is not attack threat. So if A2 right, then just A3 probably to continue. It's tough. Playing black is tough. A4 is fine here. A1 even works, but it's a little further away from what you want to start building here. You want to take these squares, this A4 to B5, this area up here, you want to take that from black, because right now that's going to be black's only real threat. This vertical is not really a threat. It's going to be that horizontal. If black is able to shut this down, then it's going to be this horizontal up here. They go with A1. I mean, it's not a horrible. It's still attack threat. Just like I said, it's a little bit a little bit further away. And black needs to create some sort of breathing room for themselves. They need a move that what I call ritnudo, which is just a drop in tempo of more than one. For instance, A2 to the right is not a drop of tempo of more than one, because white just recaptures and then we're back in the same boat. C3 minus, same thing. White just replaces, back in the same boat. So they need something. C1 plus, I guess, would be okay, and they do go with C1 plus. So, I mean, the problem with this is white just replaces, but it did buy you one turn. Now you have a turn to drop a wall here on E2 or something. Yeah, you got to come up with something at this point to stop the bleeding. Both players have a decent amount of time left. So I would not be surprised if black takes a minute to think about things. Allion just wondering if A1 or A4 was better. I like A4. Um, I think you get the same result either way. All right, and black is taking their time on this. Options, begin to move this capstone down, put a wall on E2. One of the bots would probably come up with something really silly like a flat at F4 or something like that. But humans don't play like that. So if I had to bet, especially seeing Scalpel put a white wall down in the first one, I would expect to see a wall here. So I mean, I'm thinking SE2. It doesn't completely stop the bleeding, but it kind of staunches it just a little bit. So if black does not do SE2, then I mean, even if they do potentially, white just takes B1. Okay. So this is black marching on that horizontal that I was talking about earlier. And yeah, B1 here. So C1 plus looks tempting, and maybe it is the right move. But B1, you get rid of a reserve, so get you a little bit closer there towards the end. And if we look at reserves, we can see that white's about 3 ahead for reserves. And since black did not place that kind of advanced wall here, now they're going to be in chain tack for a little while, which is where white can make attack threat, and then black can move or capture one space or throw that cap down and capture here, and then white can place and make attack threat, and then kind of repeat. So white's going to burn through a couple more reserves here, and then probably in the process knock this threat out of, not out of commission totally, but gonna displace, gonna deflect some of these stones that are used to build that threat. We'll see what black decides. The problem with now trying to decide how you're going, oh, scalpel's disconnected. We'll see if they come back in time. Yep, reconnected. If you have the tournament flag on your game, then the disconnect time is a lot longer than if it's just a regular or a normal or an unrated game. So I think I have like 900 seconds to reconnect, which is probably more than they have on the clock. But what I was saying, the problem with allowing this to happen is now you're going to eat up a lot of time trying to decide how to defend against this stuff. Um, so that does stop the threat for one turn, but then white renews with either c2 or b3, right? I would guess that Boris is just going to play c2. Yep. And then they kind of just will have to throw this cap down. Scalpel will have to throw that cap, or c3 right just begets c3. So it's not a comfortable position for black to be in here. Okay, white is not intact, so just d2 would be the response here. And when you have a sequence like this, if you can be quick about it and not make mistakes, then you can keep that clock in your opponent's court. So you can keep that clock running down, and it's a horrible feeling on your opponent's end, but if you can pre-plan that, so if he moves this, well, the cap down doesn't stop it. Let's say we have c3 minus this turn, then you want to already just have, c3 locked and loaded and get the clock right back in your opponent's board. If something like a2 minus happens, then you just fill in at a2, just kind of don't even have to think about it a whole lot, and you can keep that. Or you can choke on your tea. No charge for that one, guys. If scalpel ends up moving this stack over to e3, then you can probably just have e2 locked and loaded. And then if they interrupt again, then you can maybe start worrying about what you're going to do about this threat up here. But if you can keep that in their court, that'll help you out. Yeah, it's close to tenue if it's not, or tenue if it's not. Okay, mix capture up c1 plus here. So we talked about a2 minus earlier and a2 over. Those don't work. Now this doesn't work capturing down because that stack immediately recaptures. So going over with d3 So however many stones that is on there, four. Yeah, four. So if it is 10U, it's a couple turns out still, depending on how this is handled. Um, but either way, it's not comfortable. It's on the ropes right now, I would say. Yeah, Allion and I are talking about running that stack around. So try and buy a turn somewhere so you can get a wall down, and then maybe place F5 or E6 to try and get that horizontal kicked into motion. Now, one thing is that Boris can just capture that stack now. That'll defend against the incoming horizontal, and if black does not do anything to defend it, it'll be 10U. Okay. Yeah, just E2 plus. Yeah, is 10U. That wall has to walk up. This stack comes down, and then A2 either minuses or comes over, um, and is covered up, I think. Okay, so now yeah, the spread down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, move the whole stack there, and it's I think instant. Okay, so you can use this stack. So it depends on how white wants to end this. F1 is 10U. They have to put a wall here on A2, and then you make a hard cap, and that's the end. Or as Alion's saying, you can place A2 and then they have to do either the thrashing like we saw last game, or have to do something like A3 minus, and then you place A3, and then it's A2 plus, and then you place A2, and then you thrash in the other direction. Oh, looks like he is going with F1. Okay. So the reason this works is this wall is pinned from throwing down here, because then you just leave an open road. The only really the only attempt at stopping it is that wall here on A2. Then you step down for a hard cap and you have it. Or we run out of time. 5 seconds. Oh, okay. Yep, so step down for the hard cap and that should be it. If you want to get fancy with it, B1 over works. B1 left works. I mean, B3 left works as well, looks like. That's just too many stones in this area to defend against. Okay, good game, guys. And end on a threat. Yep, if you can. You know you're going to lose. Either give your opponent a road or end on a threat. All right, and that is the semifinals done, guys. So we have Boris moving on, and he will face Ornable in the finals. I'm not sure when they'll set that up. I'm going to Gen Con. I'm leaving on Wednesday, so maybe they'll do it before I go out of town, and I'll be able to cover it. Maybe I'll do like a kind of a post game review, but we'll see. We'll see what they have. See what they come up with. Allianz thought this was the finals. All right. Since there's a delay, I'll stick around for just a little bit, see if you guys have any questions or want a review of anything like that. And if not, then I'll take my leave. Let me go ahead and congratulate them in the Discord here. All right. Yeah, I'm glad I got to cover this one. I'm glad they were able to schedule something during a time I could do it. They're watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure out there. Nice brand new show, just came out. And while we're waiting, I'm just gonna browse through this real quick. So we had adjacent corners, and then this opening. That capstone was a little bit off from what normally happens, and then white makes the pivot. Some normal building stuff. The threat. And then this was the question, should it have been A1? This was the moment when black bought themselves a turn and they played B5 instead of, I don't know what you would play here. I can pull it out into ETN Ninja possibly and see what the bot says about that. It's probably going to be not good. Well, that's not what I wanted. I want tournament games. I'm going to blind you guys. Sorry. All right, so where was that in question after C1 plus C1? All right. Let's see what the robot overlords say. I mean, besides that it's a 92% chance. Hmm. So it's just saying F5. I mean, but it's a 92% chance win rate for. When I get to do the interactive, yeah, here we go. Let's do the interactive on the F5 and just see if that's what it thinks of here. I was thinking that the bot would come up with something crazy like F4 or okay, so it's saying go ahead and throw down. That doesn't stop. That disrupts what you had going on and doesn't really stop it. Still at 84% white chance. I mean, this is not solved. You can't really go by this, but it is a good indicator because now white just has that vertical and black is going to be too slow on a lot of this stuff. Plus you had to leave that stack of 2 behind you. And it's saying get ready for the threat. And it's probably going to do E2 and then mother hen these guys. Yep. But then I mean you're going to be too slow. And then it's just a matter of time. Then you're in trouble the other direction. So you bought yourself a little bit, but not enough. All right, I'll get back to not blinding you guys. Actually, sorry, one more time. Now I can just close it here. Don't leave the interactive analysis running on your tab, on your alternate tab. It'll sit there and eat up all your memory. All right, but yeah, I hope to cover Boris and Ornable when they get their final scheduled, and I'll see you guys then. Thanks.